That same day, Margaret took me shopping and bought me plenty of essentials and new clothes. In the mall, beside a trash bin, I saw Simon following Ronald as they collected recyclables. Ronald pointed toward the mall storage room and said, "When the guy inside comes out, ask him to give us his trash. This place tosses out premium cardboard. We can get good money for it." Simon stood poised by the door, ready to spring into action. Just then, his eyes met mine as I walked out of the fitting room. Having his embarrassing situation exposed in front of me, Simon could not keep his composure. He rushed over to me viciously. "Wesley, are you mocking me?" He raised his hand to hit me. A store employee reacted quickly and shoved Simon aside. "How did you get in here, you little beggar?" Simon gritted his teeth and lunged again, but Ronald rushed over and pulled him back. Holding on to the agitated Simon with one hand, Ronald forced out a smile and apologized repeatedly to the employee. If they were banned from the mall, it would cost him a significant source of income. The next morning, Margaret dressed me up like a little prince and sent me off to school. Simon, meanwhile, was still wearing the same clothes he had on while collecting scraps the day before. He looked worn and shabby from head to toe. Quite a few of our classmates were from the orphanage. They had already spread the story of what happened yesterday. Simon usually relied on his sweet tongue to win teachers over and strutted around school like he owned the place. Plenty of students had long since grown tired of him. Terry Yates made the first move. Pretending to walk past casually, he deliberately knocked over Simon's desk and sent his book scattering to the floor. Simon was startled. He pointed at Terry and barked, "What's wrong with you?" Terry covered his nose and looked down at the pile of books. "Why does this smell like garbage?" The entire class burst into laughter. Instead of lashing out in embarrassment, Simon snapped back and called everyone idiots. "You're all idiots. I'm going to run a steel company someday. Don't look down on a poor kid today. When I make it big, you'll be the ones begging me." The laughter paused for a split second, then erupted even louder than before. Is he losing his mind? I knew something was off yesterday when he ignored the rich family and begged a scrap collector to adopt him. Steel company boss? More like the king of cardboard. Ha ha ha. Simon stepped onto the pile of books and looked down at the classmates who were laughing at him. His gaze was filled with disdain. He casually ordered me, "Wesley, pick those books up for me." I did not move. Furious, Simon grabbed my arm. "Aren't you being ungrateful? Look at what you're wearing. That would have been mine. I gave it to you." I frowned and said, "You gave it to me? Didn't you decide by yourself that you didn't get enough and wanted me to walk the same path as you did in the previous timeline?" Simon froze for a moment, then his eyes widened. "Don't tell me you came back too?" Ha ha ha, if that's the case, he pulled me closer and said in my ear, "They don't know, but you do, don't you? Wesley Weber, this time I'll crush you under my feet." I pulled my arm free and corrected him calmly. "We'll see about that. And by the way, I'm Wesley Harrison now." After observing the Harrisons over the past 2 days, I realized that they were genuinely kind to me. There must have been another reason Simon was cast out of the Harrison family in the previous timeline. He was simply too impatient. He only ever looked at what was right in front of him and never stopped to consider how much of it he had brought on himself. Simon was living my old life. The moment school ended, he followed Ronald to collect scraps. Because of what he had done at the orphanage last time, Ronald had been deeply moved. Compared to what I went through before, Simon was spared much of the hardship. Most of the dirty, exhausting work never even passed through his hands. His skin got a little tan, but there were no extra cuts or scrapes. Because of what he had done at the orphanage last time, Ronald had been deeply moved. Compared to what I went through before, Simon was spared much of the hardship. Most of the dirty, exhausting work never even passed through his hands. His skin got a little tan, but there were no extra cuts or scrapes. Even so, Simon was not willing to endure even that much. He cornered me in the bathroom, grabbed my collar, and yelled at me like he had lost his mind. "When is this miserable life going to end? When did you start the company? Tell me." Collecting recyclables must have built up his strength. His grip was much stronger. It was tight enough that I was struggling to breathe. Terry walked out of a stall and saw what was happening. Without hesitation, he kicked Simon away. "What are you doing? You psycho." Simon really did look unhinged. A second ago, he had been raging, but he was laughing at that moment. "Fine. Don't tell me. The hardship I'm going through now is only temporary. But it's different for you, Wesley. Enjoy your life while you can. It won't be long before you're homeless." I knew that. I intended to make the most of the opportunity this time. Last time around, I barely finished high school before Ronald pulled me out full-time to collect scraps with him. Even after I eventually founded the company and hired plenty of highly educated professionals, I could not shake the regret of never having finished high school. It was not that I was unwilling to tell Simon when the company would be established. The truth was, given how things were unfolding, I could not guarantee that Summit Forge steel would come into existence. Back then, it had not been long since Ronald forced me to drop out of school to collect scraps with him. There was a large construction site being developed on the south side of the city. Ronald took me there to look for scraps. I quickly noticed that a significant amount of discarded steel had been left behind.